So Alberta is still calling, which means that there is work for those who are looking. And that work is an ever-increasing number of industries and sectors as our province continues to diversify its economy. This is why I'm also concerned about Justin Trudeau's just transition, as he calls it, because when I hear the words just transition, it signals eliminating jobs. And for Alberta, that is a non-starter. I think we all share the same goals when it comes to reducing emissions, and that's across all industries, including oil and natural gas. We are working with the federal government closely on technologies like carbon capture, utilization and storage, hydrogen, critical minerals, but the good work gets lost when they use this kind of divisive, polarizing language. Because the world is looking for energy, for more petrochemicals, for more LNG. This is not an industry in decline, but it is one of the industries that is strategic to world energy security. And Alberta is one of the most responsible producers of energy in the world and has been for decades. We will continue to advocate on behalf of the hundreds of thousands of workers whose livelihoods depend on this industry. And we expect the federal government to stand up for our world-leading oil and natural gas workers instead of trying to eliminate their jobs. I think it's a big threat. And the reason for that is the language that they're using. Just transition is the language that they used when they phased out the coal industry. It is a social justice term. If they wanted to talk about sustainable jobs, that's completely different. And we'd be quite happy to talk to them about sustainable jobs in carbon tech, sustainable jobs in hydrogen, sustainable jobs in this new economy that we're developing around small modular nuclear and other types of projects. I think we're all on board with that. But to use that terminology, they're virtue signaling to an extreme base that is openly advocating to shut down oil and natural gas. Because look at what happened at a COP27. The final communique talked about ultimately shutting down the oil and natural gas industry in the same way that coal had been phased out. We have a prime minister who, when you ran in the last election, talked about that the need to phase out oil sands eventually. He looked at it as inevitability. We don't look at it that way at all. We think that the world is going to need more natural gas. We believe that with carbon capture technology, it's going to make it more and more sustainable. Hydrogen, at its base, the best way to make it is out of methane, which is natural gas. When you look at our oil sands producers, they have an aggressive strategy to reduce emissions and use more bitumen beyond combustion. There's a petrochemical industry that we've been supporting here. So we're just shifting the paradigm. This is not about phasing out any of these jobs. It's about growing them and expanding the opportunity for oil and natural gas workers. And that's the kind of language I would like to hear the Prime Minister use, because we I think, missed an opportunity when the German Chancellor was here saying that there wasn't a business case for LNG. The Japanese Prime Minister is coming this week begging us to do more development so that we can export LNG. And I would like for a change for the Prime Minister to say, yes, we can, and to work with us on making that happen. And this kind of targeted attack on our industry, it doesn't lend itself to cooperative federalism. That's what I'm worried about, and I do take him seriously because of the past statements that he's made on this. What I do know is that when we had an equalization referendum to say we wanted to start a change in our relationship with the federal government, within days, Justin Trudeau appointed Stephen Guilbeault. Stephen Guilbeault has since denounced that he wanted to have an emissions cap on fertilizer, emissions cap on oil and natural gas, that he wants to have a mandatory carbon capture on our power grid, that he wants to have mandatory purchase of combustion engine vehicles, that we're bringing through clean fuel standards, that he wants to increase the amount of biodiversity coverage in our province. That seems to me to be provocative. They've taken over plastics. They wouldn't allow us to back out of the carbon tax. How many hits can Alberta take before we say stop it, put up a shield, and start pushing back? So I would say that everything that I have done to this point has been in response to what I have seen as a hostile federal government invading our jurisdiction. And I think Albertans expect me to stand up for Albertans. That's what I'm going to do.